Following that breaking news in the NFL, where Las Vegas Raiders quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo is facing a 2-game suspension for violating the league's PED policy. That's been confirmed by our NFL insider Jonathan Jones this morning. Jimmy G just started 6 games this past season, but then losing his starting job to the rookie Aiden O'Connell in Week 9, making for a tough end for what could turn out to be his first and only season in Vegas. It did not turn out good, and of course now there's a new head coach and maybe a new leadership there when it comes to the Raiders and QB1 spot. Jonathan Jones checking in with us here, and JJ, of course, you confirmed this news, your reaction to this, because it doesn't seem like great timing for Jimmy G.
No, it doesn't, but also Jimmy Garoppolo was no question not going to be a Las Vegas Raider in 2024. There was no doubt at all about that. That was clear toward the end of the season when the team was playing better with Aiden O'Connell. And certainly when you look at his contract and how money would have triggered and further guaranteed had he been on the team after the 5th day of the new league year, which is about mid-March or so. And so they were going to release Jimmy Garoppolo within this next month, whether this took place or not. And certainly the team had been aware of this for some time. This did not just happen today. This is just when the news is coming out. But what is interesting about this, according to sources who have viewed his contract, who have sent me his contract, pretty standard language within that contract, that if you are suspended for a violation of performance-enhancing substances, if you will, the PED policy in the NFL, that your remaining guarantees can void. And so Garoppolo, who had about $33.75 million in guaranteed money at signing last year, well, actually 11.25 of that is now going to void, or at least it can if the Raiders wanted to, and I can't imagine that they do not wanted to. And so they would be able to get that 2024 roster bonus of a little more than $11 million back. That money was due to Jimmy Garoppolo on March the 17th. And so this is hitting him certainly in the wallet. But again, not a huge surprise, Brandon, that he is not going to be with the Las Vegas Raiders in 2024.
So he's losing out on $11 million. And of course, the starting job is no longer a thing there out in Vegas in 2024. What are you hearing about possible landing spots? I mean, could it be relegated to QB2 if he's looking for a new job out there?
Oh, certainly. I don't think that there's going to be a starting job available for Jimmy Garoppolo, at least as we talk about week 1 of the NFL season or going into training camp. There is not going to be a single place out of the 32 teams that's going to raise their hand and say Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be our starting quarterback, and he's going to have to show us otherwise for him to not be the starter in week 1. Fact of the matter is, a lot of teams already have their quarterback figured out. A number of other teams are positioning themselves to perhaps take a quarterback in the draft, and then you would imagine that person would start week 1 or somewhere around week 1. And then, of course, there's going to be the free agent quarterback market, or quarterbacks who ostensibly are free agents. And so what do I mean by that? Kirk Cousins, for example, could be available, or he could go back to Minnesota. Russell Wilson, not a free agent, but probably not going to be with the Denver Broncos. Justin Fields, not a free agent, but probably not going to be with the Chicago Bears. And so the sort of pool of healthy quarterbacks begins to fill up. And Jimmy Garoppolo, who has struggled over the years with injuries, last season dealing with a concussion, dealing with a back injury, the year before dealing with a left foot injury that ultimately led to some awkwardness and wonkiness with his contract with the Raiders, where they had to add an injury addendum to it because he couldn't pass a physical when they needed him to in order to become the Raiders quarterback. I don't see a spot for Jimmy Garoppolo where a team says, yeah, we want to entrust the 2024 season in March, in June, into Jimmy Garoppolo. So certainly there will be a spot for him, probably at a veteran minimum deal with a team to be a backup, because I don't think anyone would disagree that he's certainly a capable backup. But because of the injury, and now, frankly, because of the first 2-game suspension that he's going to be serving, someone that you cannot rely on to be the main signal caller.
Of course, losing that job week 9 to the rookie there in O'Connell, and I'm curious, he went 5-5, but what are you hearing about Vegas? Because we've seen mocks from our own Ryan Wilson about maybe the Raiders taking a quarterback. You mentioned guys like Russell Wilson might be out there. What are you hearing about that QB1 spot out in Vegas?
Well, the Raiders certainly are going to be making a move for a quarterback. There's no doubt, no question at all about that. It's just a matter of when are they going to do it? How are they going to go about doing it? Look, if they want one of these top 3 quarterbacks, Caleb Williams, Jayden Daniels, Drake May, whatever sort of order you want to put them in, the Las Vegas Raiders are going to have to move from their current spot at 13th overall in the draft in order to get them. Now, they may be willing to move, but when you move in the draft for a quarterback, you better have a dance partner. And right now in the top 3, we're talking about the Chicago Bears, who probably are moving on from Justin Fields and will select a quarterback. We're talking about the Washington Commanders, who are probably maybe going to select a quarterback. We're talking about the New England Patriots at number 3. Probably maybe going to select a quarterback. So if you go QB 1, 2, 3 with those teams, you don't have a chair if you are the Las Vegas Raiders. But plenty, of course, to be figured out and determined. We're still about a month away from the start of free agency, where anything can happen, and the musical chairs can certainly take place at the quarterback position. I mentioned Justin Fields. We mentioned a Russell Wilson, who can be had at the veteran minimum, very likely, except it'd be kind of hard to make that trade within the division, the AFC West, between the Denver Broncos and the Raiders. So still far too early to determine who's going to be the next Raiders starting quarterback. Aiden O'Connell will certainly be there, but the Raiders will look to add. They may be aggressive in the draft, but if they determine once they come out of Indianapolis at the NFL Scouting Combine in about 10 days, that it's going to be impossible to go up and get one of the guys that they really, really like, they may say, all right, at the start of free agency, let's go out there and make that trade for that quarterback or sign that quarterback in free agency, and let's use our draft capital and resources on someone that we can put around that quarterback as we enter into this new era of Las Vegas Raiders football.
Well, the good thing is they're in the perfect place. What stays in Vegas, of course, we never will know until we get to that point there. Jonathan Jones, as always, my friend, appreciate it with that breaking news. Hey, don't forget, I'm pretty sure the Pick Six, they'll be talking about it. Jimmy G suspended for 2 games for the league policy of PED. But check out the guys. The closer we get, look, the season is over, so we're ramping up maybe draft talk. Combine is coming up. And then, of course, we get back to that glorious football season. Download and give them a follow.